Welcome back to Sport on 7. I'm Tom Bushell and this is Chris McHardy with all the latest from the last week of football. Yeah, and as always, Chris McHardy is here to discuss the biggest sporting stories over the last week or so here in the UAE and around the world, of course. Now, let's start with local football because the Arabian Gulf League has got off to an interesting start to the season. Of course, Jorge Fossati, who was put in charge of Al Ain to replace Cosmin Olaru earlier in the summer, in fact, just 7 or so weeks ago, has left his job, and that's because the club felt that he wasn't taking it in the right direction. Is it possible to know that after just 7 weeks, Chris?
It's an interesting one, Tom, and you would have thought they would have known this before appointing Jorge Fossati. Of course, as you rightly say, 7 weeks in the job. I think it amounted to 49 days, just 3 games. Admittedly, those 3 games didn't go as well, I think, as Al Ain would have wanted. Of course, they lost that Super Cup match against Al Ahly on penalties. They had that defeat as well in the UAE League Cup, followed by a victory. So 1 win and 2 draws effectively from his 3 games, but that was deemed not good enough for the Al Ain officials. It's disappointing. Jorge Fossati is a man who's been around the block. He's had numerous jobs, and in this region as well, of course, winning the AFC Champions League with Al Sadd back in 2011. But unfortunately, his face is clearly not fit at Al Ain, and he's paid the price for it.
It seems to be, doesn't it, a lot of player power involved here, and it's a strange way, isn't it? Because in Europe, if players didn't like the manager, then it would be the player to go. But here, it seems that players have a lot more power.
Well, of course, Tom, they are Pro League champions, as it is, of course, now the Arabian Gulf League. So there is a bit of power there with the players. They clearly weren't happy. There's been some talk in the camp that they weren't happy with Fossati's 3-5-2 formation, which, of course, goes against what they have been successful with over the past couple of seasons, which has been that 4-4-2. But is that an excuse to sack the manager after 7 weeks? It's up for debate, Tom, but certainly Fossati hasn't fit. He's not fitted in with the officials, and he hasn't fitted in with the players, and he's paid the price for it.
It's a very similar situation, actually, isn't it, to Leeds United back in the 70s. Of course, they've made a film out of that, The Damned United, when Brian Clough, what was it, 41, 44 days, something like that in charge until he got fired?
41 days, I think it was, way back when, and I think it's similar there. Of course, he took over from the great Don Revie. There were champions as well at the time, and just different philosophies, different styles, and clearly that doesn't fit in. Of course, replacing someone so successful is very difficult, but as I say again, you know, it posed the question, why did it not crop up in the interview stage? Of course, at the other side of the coin as well, you can commend Al Ain for taking the decision so early. They're not willing to go through a season of mediocrity. They're willing to say, listen, we made a mistake, we put our hands up, let's try and rectify it as quickly as possible. So we wait and see if that's a success.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, in the Premier League, we're always talking about who's going to be the earliest managerial casualty. Well, it's happened even before the season started here, of course, because Fossati was sacked before the Arabian Gulf League proper got underway last weekend. Replacements, anyone at the top of that list already?
There has been a few names mentioned, Tom. Abel Braga is the biggest one of those. Of course, the former Al Jazeera boss, recently sacked at Fluminense, the Brazilian champion, so he's got a good record in this region, and he's well respected as well. Interesting name that's cropped up in the last few days is René Meulenstein, the former first-team coach at Manchester United. Now, the Dutchman, well respected throughout the game. There has been some talk that he was in Dubai this past week for talks with the club. We await for confirmation on that. But the other interesting one, and keep an eye on this one, folks, is Michael Prodholm, the former Belgian goalkeeper. He recently lost his job at Al Shabaab in Saudi Arabia after they lost their AFC Champions League quarter-final clash. He's a name that has been mentioned, and do not be surprised if the Belgian is heading for Al Ain.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one for you. Of course, it's still very warm here in Dubai. We're looking forward to the humidity calming down a little bit, but well, the Champions League, of course, in Europe is underway, and Jose Mourinho won't be too happy, will he, with Chelsea's start to the campaign. But for the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, and of course Manchester United and Manchester City, Arsenal as well, a great start to the new Champions League season by those teams.
Well, you mentioned Real Madrid and Barcelona. It's tit for tat, if you will. On the Tuesday night, we had Cristiano Ronaldo scoring a hat-trick, 22 goals in just 22 games for Real Madrid in the Champions League. Quite an astonishing goal-scoring record. Then 24 hours later, Lionel Messi, whatever you can do, I can do as well. Another hat-trick for him, a 4-0 win over Ajax. Remarkably, the first time those two teams have ever faced in a competitive match. Quite incredible. And of course, Lionel Messi, with that hat-trick, not only does he become the first player to score 4 in the competition, 4 hat-tricks that is, he's also now just 9 goals away from Raul's record. It's 62 goals in just 80 games for Lionel Messi. Quite astonishing. And of course, a quick mention as well for David Moyes, taking charge of Manchester United for the first time in Europe. A great victory on the night. There has been a lot of question marks over United in the opening weeks of the season, but they were right bang at it. They were on form. They were at a pace, and Rooney as well. What a match he had. He looks back to his best. He's clearly lost a bit of weight, and look out for Wayne Rooney to be a real player for Manchester United this season.
Well, yeah, for all those teams, a fantastic start. But for Chelsea, under Jose Mourinho, of course, he won the title with them, the Premier League title, in his first season back in 2003 and 2004. It doesn't look to be so simple this time around. The worst start for Chelsea in the league for quite some time.
Indeed, and it's actually the worst start to a season in Roman Abramovich's 10-year tenure. A disappointing defeat, it must be said, a 2-1 home defeat to Bâle. That's the first time Chelsea have lost in the group stage since 2003. They were 13 matches unbeaten at home. That's now gone as well. A lot of question marks being asked of Jose Mourinho now, but I must say, take nothing away from Bâle. They were superb on the night. And look out as well for one of their goal scorers, the Egyptian Mohamed Salah. A lot's been written over him over the past few months. You say that he's content in the Swiss champions, but it's surely only a matter of time before he gets a big move, because I tell you, Tom, at 21 years of age, really, the world is his oyster.
For Jose, though, I mean, is it a time to be worried, or will he be feeling fairly calm and knowing what needs to change?
I think, listen, he is the special one. He's not called the special one for anything.
He's still the special one.
Only time will tell, I guess, Tom. I mean, it's certainly not the start he would have wanted. Obviously, that disappointing league defeat to Everton. I think the big question marks as well. No Juan Mata in the starting lineup as well. Of course, he's the little Spanish magician who really was their player of the year last season. Still question marks over how he's going to fit into this team, but I would suggest that Jose finds the answer to that quickly, because right now it's not working out with Chelsea. There's a David Luiz again, looked a bit rocky in defence, and with Ramirez and Frank Lampard, and he's got numerous options. He's just not quite finding the balance so far.
All right, well, of course, it's going to be a long season ahead, and we'll be with you every step of the way, won't we, Chris McHardy?
Indeed, Tom.
At some point, he will get a haircut as well before we get to May. Chris McHardy, thank you very much for your time once again this week. Sport on 7, of course, with Chris. We'll be back next week. Thanks, Chris. We'll see you next week. Now, just time to tell you about the awards that celebrate all in golf that are on the way to Dubai very soon, happening in December, the Megas Middle East Golf Awards. And as we mentioned earlier on Sport on 7, there is so much golf to look forward to and celebrate in the country. If you would like to vote on all of the awards up for grabs, you can do. sport360.com/mega is where to go to. We'll have more on that very soon. Next week on the show, we'll be back with more sport on Sport on 7. Until then, I'm Tom Bushell. Goodbye.